The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the cracked and barren ground of Zereth 9. It was a planet where life clung to existence by the thinnest of threads. The air was thick with dust, and the wind carried the scent of dry earth and decay. Most people who lived here didn't dream of better days. They simply hoped to survive another night. Among them was Ethan Cole, a wiry young man with dirt-streaked skin and eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. His hands were calloused from years of hard labor and fighting, and his body bore the scars of countless struggles. Ethan wasn't born into wealth or privilege. He grew up in a small settlement on the edge of the desert, where water was rationed, food was scarce, and violence was a way of life. On Zereth 9, disputes weren't settled with words, they were settled with fists, knives, or whatever weapon happened to be within reach. From an early age, Ethan learned how to throw a punch and take a hit. He wasn't the strongest or the fastest, but he had something most others lacked: determination. No matter how many times he fell, he always got back up. Life on Zereth 9 was brutal, but it taught Ethan valuable lessons. Every fight he survived made him sharper, tougher, and more resourceful. He learned to read people, their movements, their expressions, their tells. He knew when someone was about to strike before they even moved. This skill kept him alive more times than he could count. But surviving wasn't enough for Ethan. Deep down, he wanted something more, though he couldn't quite put it into words. Maybe it was respect, maybe it was freedom, or maybe it was just the chance to prove that he was worth something in a world that treated him like nothing. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Ethan wandered away from the settlement. He often did this when he needed time to think. The quiet of the desert offered a rare escape from the chaos of daily life. As he walked, he stumbled upon a pile of discarded junk, a common sight on Zereth 9. People threw things away without a second thought because everything here was broken or useless. But as Ethan sifted through the debris, he found something unusual: an old holographic projector. Curious, Ethan powered it on. At first, the device sputtered and crackled, but then an image flickered to life. It was a broadcast from the Galactic Arena network showcasing highlights from recent matches. The screen displayed footage of Logan Drake, a towering alien warrior known across the galaxy as the Invincible. Drake's reputation preceded him. With 846 victories and no defeats, he was considered the greatest fighter in galactic history. His matches were spectacles, watched by billions of viewers from countless worlds. Ethan sat cross-legged on the sand, mesmerized by what he saw. Logan Drake moved with precision and power, dismantling his opponents with ease. Each punch, kick, and block seemed calculated, almost artistic. Ethan had never seen anything like it. Back on Zereth 9, fights were messy and chaotic. They were about survival, not skill. Watching Drake fight was like watching poetry in motion. For the first time, Ethan realized that there was more to combat than just throwing punches. There was strategy, discipline, and finesse. As the broadcast continued, Ethan felt a strange mix of awe and envy. He admired Drake's skill, but couldn't help wondering if he could ever stand a chance against someone like that. The idea seemed ridiculous. Logan Drake was a legend, a being from another world with access to advanced technology and training. Ethan was just a nobody from a forgotten planet. And yet the thought lingered in his mind, refusing to let go. Later that week, fate intervened in a way Ethan never expected. While scavenging for supplies near the outskirts of the settlement, he got into a scuffle with a group of scavengers. These weren't ordinary fights. These were men who lived by violence and thrived on intimidation. They surrounded Ethan, taunting him and daring him to make a move. Outnumbered and outgunned, Ethan knew he had two choices: run or fight. Running wasn't an option. Not today. What happened next caught everyone off guard, including Ethan himself. Using every trick he'd learned on Zereth 9, he weaved through the attackers, dodging blows and striking with surprising speed and accuracy. One by one, the scavengers fell until only Ethan remained standing. Bloodied but victorious, he turned to leave, unaware that he had been watched. A recruiter for the Galactic Arena Circuit had been scanning remote planets for potential challengers. What he saw in Ethan that day intrigued him. The young man's raw talent and unrelenting spirit reminded him of fighters he had discovered before. After the brawl, the recruiter approached Ethan, introducing himself as Victor Kane. Kane explained that he represented the Galactic Arena Circuit, a prestigious organization that hosted interstellar combat tournaments. Fighters from all over the galaxy competed for fame, fortune, and glory. Kane believed Ethan had what it took to succeed. At first, Ethan laughed at the idea. Him? Compete against warriors from other planets? It sounded absurd. But Kane persisted, painting a picture of a brighter future. He told Ethan about the money he could earn, the recognition he could gain, and the opportunity to leave Zereth 9 behind forever. For the first time in his life, Ethan saw a way out, a chance to escape the harsh reality of his world and carve a new path for himself. After some deliberation, Ethan agreed to join. He packed a few belongings, said goodbye to the handful of people who mattered to him, and boarded a transport ship bound for Zentrix Prime, the headquarters of the Galactic Arena Circuit. As the ship lifted off, Ethan looked out the window at the shrinking landscape of Zereth 9. He felt a pang of sadness, but also a spark of excitement. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he was ready to face it head-on. Little did Ethan know this decision would set him on a collision course with destiny. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond his imagination. And somewhere out there was Logan Drake, the undefeated champion whose name echoed through the stars. Ethan may have started as a simple fighter from a harsh world, but his journey was only beginning. When Ethan stepped off the transport ship onto Zentrix Prime, he felt like he had landed on an entirely different planet, not just geographically, but culturally. The air was clean, almost too fresh compared to the dusty winds of Zereth 9, towering. Skyscrapers made of shimmering metal and glass stretched high into the sky, their surfaces reflecting the sunlight in dazzling patterns. Hovercars zipped through the air, and neon signs blinked with advertisements for products Ethan couldn't even begin to understand. The noise alone was overwhelming, people talking, machines humming, and music blaring from every direction. Ethan's senses were bombarded, but what struck him most was how out of place he felt. Everyone around him seemed polished and confident, dressed in sleek uniforms or stylish outfits. He wore his usual tattered clothes, still stained with dirt from home. His hands, calloused and rough, looked alien next to the smooth, unmarked skin of the people passing by. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind. What was he doing here? How could someone like him possibly compete against fighters who came from worlds so advanced? Victor Kane, the recruiter who had brought him here, noticed Ethan's hesitation. Don't worry, Victor said with a reassuring smile. You're not expected to fit in right away. Just focus on training, that's all that matters. Victor led Ethan to a sprawling facility known as the Galactic Arena Compound. It was a massive complex filled with gyms, simulation rooms, medical bays, and living quarters for fighters. Ethan's eyes widened as he took it all in. Back on Zereth 9, the idea of having access to such resources would have been unimaginable. Here, it was just part of the routine. Inside the compound, Ethan met Mia Torres, a retired human trainer who specialized in working with underdog fighters. She was in her late 40s, with short gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude. Her sharp gaze assessed Ethan immediately, taking in his lean frame, scarred knuckles, and weary expression. So, this is the Deathworlder? She asked Victor, raising an eyebrow. He's got potential. Victor replied confidently. Mia crossed her arms and studied Ethan for a moment longer before nodding. All right, let's see what you can do. Over the next few days, Ethan began his rigorous training regimen under Mia's guidance. At first, he struggled. The equipment was unlike anything he'd ever used: gravity simulators, holographic opponents, and weapons that fired harmless energy blasts. Even basic exercises felt foreign because they required precision and technique rather than brute force. On Zereth 9, Ethan had relied on instinct and improvisation. Here, there was a method to everything. Mia pushed him hard, demanding perfection in every movement. She taught him how to analyze his opponent's weaknesses, anticipate their attacks, and counter with calculated strikes. Fighting isn't just about strength, she told him one day after a particularly grueling session. It's about strategy. You need to think 3 steps ahead if you want to survive out there. Despite the challenges, Ethan adapted quickly. His body responded well to the intense workouts, and his natural instincts proved invaluable during sparring sessions. Mia often remarked on his ability to adapt mid-fight, something she said many seasoned fighters lacked. "You've got grit," she told him once. "That's rare. Don't lose it." As Ethan trained, he also encountered other competitors in the Galactic Arena circuit. They came from diverse backgrounds. Some were humans from prosperous planets, while others were aliens with abilities far beyond anything Ethan had seen before. Some fighters were friendly, offering tips or sharing stories about their experiences. Others, however, were hostile, dismissing Ethan as nothing more than a novelty act. One of these hostile fighters was Cale Voss, Logan Drake's protege. Cale was young, arrogant, and eager to prove himself as the heir to Drake's legacy. With his chiseled features and expensive gear, he exuded confidence. When Cale first saw Ethan practicing in the gym, he sneered. "What's this?" he said, loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "A dirt eater from some backwater planet thinks he can fight in the big leagues?" Ethan stopped what he was doing and turned to face Cale. He didn't say anything at first, letting the insult hang in the air. Then, with a calmness that surprised even himself, he replied, "I'm here to win, same as you." Cale laughed, shaking his head. "Win? Against fighters like us? You'll be lucky to last 5 minutes." He leaned closer, lowering his voice, so only Ethan could hear. "Go back to your dessert, kid. This isn't your world." For a brief moment, anger flared inside Ethan. He wanted to lash out, to shut Cale up with a punch to the jaw. But he remembered Mia's advice, control your emotions. Instead, he gave Cale a small, knowing smile. "We'll see," he said simply. Before returning to his workout, the encounter left Ethan frustrated but determined. He knew Cale wasn't wrong about one thing: he was an outsider here. But instead of letting it discourage him, he used it as motivation. Every time he felt tired or doubted himself, he thought about Cale's words and pushed harder. He spent extra hours practicing, refining his techniques, and studying footage of past matches to learn from the best. During this time, Ethan formed a bond with Claire Bennett, a medic assigned to monitor his health. Claire was kind and approachable, with a calming presence that put Ethan at ease. She patched up his cuts and bruises after tough training sessions and listened patiently whenever he needed to vent. Though their conversations started casually, they soon grew deeper. Claire admired Ethan's humility and resilience, qualities she rarely saw in other fighters. "You know," Claire said one evening as she bandaged a cut on Ethan's forearm, "most people come here chasing fame or money, but you seem different." Ethan glanced at her, surprised. "Different how?" "You're fighting for something bigger than yourself," she explained. "I can see it in your eyes. You're not just here to win, you're here to prove something." Her words resonated. With Ethan, he hadn't fully articulated it before, but she was right. This journey wasn't just about escaping Zereth 9 or earning recognition. It was about proving that someone from a harsh, forgotten world could rise above their circumstances and make a name for themselves. It was about showing that determination and heart could overcome any obstacle. As the weeks passed, Ethan's progress became undeniable. He defeated several opponents in practice matches, earning respect from his peers and praise from Mia. Word of the Deathworlder spread throughout the compound, sparking both curiosity and skepticism. Some fighters bet against him, convinced he wouldn't last long in the arena. Others kept a close eye on him, sensing that he might be more than he appeared. Despite the growing attention, Ethan stayed focused. He reminded himself why he was here and what he was fighting for. Every punch he threw, every drop of sweat he shed, brought him one step closer to his goal. And though he still had doubts moments when he wondered if he truly belonged, he refused to let them hold him back. On the eve of his first official match, Ethan stood alone in the training room, staring at his reflection in the mirror. His Body was stronger now, his movements sharper. But more importantly, his mind was ready. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the struggles on Zereth 9, the leap of faith to join the Galactic Arena circuit, and the countless hours of preparation. He thought about Kale's taunts and Claire's encouragement, about Mia's tough love and Victor's belief in him. For the first time, Ethan allowed himself to imagine victory not just in this match, but in the entire tournament. He pictured himself standing in the center of the arena, surrounded by cheering crowds, with his name echoing through the galaxy. It was a bold dream, perhaps even reckless. But dreams were supposed to be big, weren't they? With a deep breath, Ethan clenched his fists and nodded to his reflection. Tomorrow he would step into the arena. Tomorrow he would show the galaxy what a Deathworlder was made of. The day of Ethan's first official match arrived, and the atmosphere in the Galactic Arena compound was electric. Fighters bustled about, preparing themselves mentally and physically for their upcoming battles. The air buzzed with anticipation, a mix of excitement and tension that seemed to seep into every corner of the facility. For Ethan, the morning felt surreal. He had spent months training, learning, and adapting, but now the moment of truth was here. This wasn't just another practice session, it was real. Ethan woke early, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything he had worked for hinged on this single performance. If he failed today, he would be sent back to Zereth 9, his dreams crushed before they even began. But if he succeeded, well, he didn't let himself think too much about that. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, surviving. After a quick breakfast of protein, bars and water, Ethan headed to the preparation room where Mia was waiting for him. She greeted him with a firm handshake and a look of quiet confidence. "You ready?" she asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," Ethan replied, though his voice betrayed a hint of nervousness. Mia nodded. "Remember what I've taught you. Stay calm, stay sharp, and trust your instincts. You've got this." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. Over the past weeks, Mia had become more than just a trainer to Ethan. She was a mentor, someone who believed in him when others doubted. Her faith gave him strength, and he held on to it tightly as he prepared for the fight. Before long, Ethan found himself standing in the tunnel leading to the arena. The roar of the crowd echoed around him, a deafening wave of sound that made his heart race. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. When he opened them again, he caught sight of Claire standing nearby. She gave him a small, encouraging smile and mouthed the words, "You can do this." Ethan returned the smile, feeling a surge of gratitude. Having Claire by his side, even in this small way, meant more to him than she could ever know. Finally, it was time. The announcer's voice boomed over the speakers, introducing Ethan as the Deathworlder from Zereth 9 as he stepped into the arena. The bright lights momentarily blinded him. Thousands of spectators filled the stands, their faces a blur of excitement and curiosity. Cameras hovered overhead, capturing every move for viewers across the galaxy. Ethan's opponent, a burly alien named Rokar, stood across the ring, his muscular frame towering over Ethan's lean build. Rokar grinned, showing rows of jagged teeth, and pounded his chest in a display of dominance. The referee signaled for the fighters to take their positions. Ethan's pulse quickened as he moved to the center of the ring. He reminded himself of Mia's advice: control your breathing, focus on the present, and don't let fear dictate your actions. The bell rang, signaling the start of the match, and the two fighters charged at each other. From the very beginning, it was clear that Rokar relied on brute force. His punches were powerful, capable of knocking out most opponents with a single blow, but Ethan had trained for this. He dodged and weaved, using his speed and agility to stay out of reach. Each time Rokar swung, Ethan slipped away, landing quick jabs to weaken his opponent's defenses. The crowd cheered wildly, captivated by the spectacle unfolding before them. But Rokar wasn't easy to defeat. Despite Ethan's efforts, the alien managed to land a heavy punch that sent Ethan stumbling backward. Pain shot through his ribs, and for a moment he struggled to catch his breath. Rokar seized the opportunity, pressing forward with relentless attacks. Ethan blocked as best he could, but the pressure was mounting. Just when it seemed like he might crumble, he remembered something Mia had said during one of their training sessions. When you're backed into a corner, dig deeper. Find that spark inside you and use it. With renewed determination, Ethan dug in. He absorbed another hit, then countered with a swift kick to Rokar's knee, causing the alien to falter. Sensing an opening, Ethan unleashed a flurry of strikes, targeting Rokar's weakened areas. The crowd erupted as Rokar staggered, unable to keep up with Ethan's sudden burst of energy. Finally, with a well-placed uppercut, Ethan sent Rokar crashing to the ground. The referee counted to 10, and the match was over. Ethan stood there, panting heavily, his body aching from the effort. But as the realization sank in that he had won, a wave of euphoria washed over him. The crowd roared its approval, chanting his name. Cameras zoomed in on his face, capturing the raw emotion etched across his features. It was a victory unlike anything he had ever experienced, a triumph not just over Rokar, but over his own doubts and fears. Over the following weeks, Ethan continued to rise through the ranks. Each match presented new challenges, forcing him to adapt and grow. Some opponents were faster, others stronger, and a few possessed strange abilities that tested Ethan's resolve. In one particularly grueling bout, he faced Tarek Volume, a reptilian warrior armed with razor-sharp claws. Tarek's attacks were brutal, slicing through Ethan's defenses and leaving deep gashes on his arms and legs. Blood dripped onto the arena floor as Ethan fought desperately to stay alive. Just when it seemed like Tarek would emerge victorious, Ethan spotted a weakness in his opponent's stance. Drawing on every ounce of strength he had left, Ethan executed a risky maneuver, grabbing Tarek's arm and twisting it until the alien dropped to one knee. With a final, decisive strike, Ethan ended the fight, earning yet another hard-fought win. Though battered and bruised, he walked away with his head held high, knowing he had pushed beyond his limits once again. As Ethan climbed the ranks, word of the Deathworlder spread throughout the galaxy. Fans began to see him as a symbol of grit and perseverance, someone who refused to give up no matter how dire the situation. His story resonated with people from all walks of life, those who felt overlooked or underestimated, those who dreamed of rising above their circumstances. Even Logan Drake, the undefeated champion, took notice. During one of his rare interviews, Drake commented on Ethan's progress, calling him an intriguing fighter with potential. Despite the growing attention, Ethan remained humble. He knew better than to let success go to his head. After each match, he retreated to the compound, spending hours reviewing footage of his fights to identify areas for improvement. He trained harder than ever, determined to refine his skills and prepare for the battles ahead. Mia continued to push him, challenging him to reach new heights, while Claire provided unwavering support, nursing his injuries and reminding him of why he started this journey in the first place. One evening, after a particularly tough day of training, Ethan sat with Claire in the medical bay. His hands were wrapped in bandages and his body ached from countless bruises and cuts. Despite the pain, he wore a faint smile. "I never thought I'd make it this far," he admitted softly. Claire looked at him, her expression warm and understanding. "You deserve it, Ethan. You've earned every bit of this." "I don't know about that," Ethan replied, shaking his head. "Sometimes I feel like I'm just getting lucky." "It's not luck," Claire insisted. "It's your determination, your refusal to quit. That's what sets you apart." Her words stayed with him long after their conversation ended. They reminded him of the journey he had undertaken, not just the physical battles, but the internal ones as well. Every step of the way, he had faced obstacles that threatened to break him. Yet somehow he had kept moving forward. And now, as he stood on the brink of greatness, he realized that the true battle wasn't against his opponents. It was within himself. By the time Ethan reached the semifinals, his reputation had grown exponentially. Spectators packed the arenas to watch him fight, eager to witness the underdog defy the odds once again. Even Cale Voss, who had once mocked Ethan, now watched his matches with a mixture of respect and unease. Though Cale still harbored disdain for the Deathworlder, he couldn't deny Ethan's skill or the threat he posed to Logan Drake's legacy. As Ethan prepared for his next match, he allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. From the dusty deserts of Zereth 9 to the gleaming stages of the Galactic Arena circuit, he had come so far, but he also knew that the hardest challenges were yet to come. Somewhere out there, Logan Drake awaited the greatest fighter in galactic history, a man with 846 victories and 0 defeats. Facing him would be the ultimate test, one that would require everything Ethan had and then some. For now, though, Ethan focused on the present, one fight at a time. One victory at a time. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to face it head on. Because that's who he was, a fighter, a survivor, a Deathworlder. The day of the championship match arrived, and the entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The arena on Zentrix Prime was packed to capacity, with billions more watching from their homes on countless worlds. This wasn't just another fight, it was history in the making. On one side stood Logan Drake, the undefeated champion whose name inspired awe and admiration across the stars. On the other side was Ethan Cole, the Deathworlder who had risen from obscurity to challenge the greatest fighter in galactic history. Ethan woke early that morning, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. He tried to focus on the routine, a light breakfast, stretching his muscles, reviewing strategies, but it was impossible to ignore the weight of the moment. Today he would face Logan Drake, a man whose skill and dominance were unmatched. For weeks, Ethan had studied footage of Drake's matches, analyzing every move, every pattern, every weakness. But no amount of preparation could fully prepare him for the reality of stepping into the ring with someone like Drake. As Ethan made his way to the arena, he felt a strange mix of emotions: excitement, fear, determination. The air buzzed with anticipation, and the roar of the crowd grew louder with each step. When he entered the tunnel leading to the ring, the bright lights momentarily blinded him. Thousands of spectators filled the stands, their eyes fixed on him, waiting to see if this underdog could pull off the impossible. Cameras hovered overhead, capturing every detail for viewers across the galaxy. Across the ring stood Logan Drake. At first glance, he looked invincible. His towering frame exuded power and confidence, his muscular build a testament to years of discipline and training. Unlike many fighters who relied on flashy gear or advanced technology, Drake fought with simplicity and precision. His movements were calculated, almost graceful, and his piercing gaze seemed to see right through his opponents. As Ethan locked eyes with him, he felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just another opponent, it was a legend. The referee signaled for the fighters to take their positions. Ethan took a deep breath, focusing on Mia's advice: stay calm, stay sharp, and trust your instincts. The bell rang, signaling the start of the match, and the two fighters charged at each other. From the very beginning, it was clear that Drake was in a league of his own. His punches were fast and powerful, landing with precision that left Ethan struggling to keep up. Each blow sent shockwaves through Ethan's body, testing his endurance and resolve. Despite his best efforts to dodge and counter, Ethan found himself on the defensive, absorbing hit after hit. The crowd watched in awe as Drake dominated the early stages of the fight, showcasing the skills that had earned him 846 victories, but Ethan refused to give up. Even as his body ached and his vision blurred, he reminded himself of everything he had been through: the harsh deserts of Zereth 9, the grueling training sessions, the countless battles he had fought to get here. He thought about Claire's words about how his determination set him apart. And most importantly, he remembered why he had started this journey in the first place: not for fame or glory, but to prove that someone from a forgotten world could rise above their circumstances. With renewed focus, Ethan dug deep. He began to adapt, using his agility and quick reflexes to create openings in Drake's otherwise flawless defense. Though smaller and less experienced, Ethan's resilience became his greatest weapon. He absorbed blow after blow, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When it came, he seized it, landing a series of rapid punches that forced Drake to retreat. The crowd erupted in cheers, astonished by Ethan's ability to withstand Drake's onslaught. For the first time in his career, Logan Drake appeared unsettled. He adjusted his strategy, attacking with renewed intensity. The fight became a back-and-forth battle, each fighter pushing the other to their limits. Ethan's body screamed in protest, but he pushed through the pain, drawing on every ounce of strength and determination he had left. In the final moments of the match, Ethan spotted an opening. Drake raised his guard slightly, leaving a small gap near his ribs. It was a risky move, but Ethan didn't hesitate. Summoning all his remaining energy, he launched himself forward, delivering a devastating combination of strikes that sent Drake stumbling backward. With one final, powerful punch, Ethan knocked Drake to the ground. The arena fell silent as the referee counted to 10. When the count ended, the announcement echoed throughout the stadium. Winner by knockout, Ethan Cole. For a moment, Ethan couldn't believe it. He stood there, breathing heavily, his body trembling from exhaustion. Then, as the realization sank in, a wave of emotion washed over him. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices blending into a deafening roar. Cameras zoomed in on his face, capturing the disbelief and triumph etched across his features. It was a victory unlike anything he had ever imagined, a triumph not just over Logan Drake, but over every obstacle he had faced along the way. Logan Drake rose slowly to his feet, offering Ethan a handshake and a nod of respect. Though defeated, Drake wore a faint smile, acknowledging the skill and determination of his opponent. "Well done," he said simply, his voice carrying a tone of genuine admiration. Ethan shook Drake's hand, still trying to process what had happened. In that moment, he realized that this victory wasn't just his, it belonged to everyone who had believed in him. From Mia and Claire to Victor and the people of Zereth 9, it was proof that perseverance and heart could overcome even the greatest. After the match, Ethan retreated to the locker room where Claire was waiting for him. She wrapped her arms around him, tears streaming down her face. "You did it," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "You actually did it." "I couldn't have done it without you," Ethan replied, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "Or Mia, or anyone who believed in me." News of Ethan's victory spread rapidly, sparking celebrations across the galaxy. Fans hailed him as a hero, someone who had defied the odds and achieved greatness against all expectations. His story inspired millions, reminding them that true strength came not from power or privilege, but from the unyielding spirit to keep moving forward. Even Logan Drake offered praise, calling Ethan a worthy successor during a post-match interview. Though their paths diverged afterward, the mutual respect they had forged remained. Ethan knew that defeating Drake wasn't just about winning a title, it was about earning the champion's acknowledgement and proving that he belonged on the same stage. As the days passed, Ethan reflected on his journey. From the harsh deserts of Zereth 9 to the gleaming arenas of the Galactic Arena Circuit, he had come so far. Yet, despite the fame and recognition, he remained grounded, refusing to let success change who he was. He returned briefly to Zereth 9, sharing his winnings with the community that had shaped him and funding projects to improve living conditions on the planet. Though his record now stood at 847 wins and 0 losses, Ethan knew that the real battle wasn't in the arena, it was within himself. He had proven that someone from a forgotten corner of the universe could rise above their circumstances and achieve greatness. And though his journey was far from over, he faced the future with confidence, knowing that he had already accomplished the impossible. Ethan's victory over Logan Drake sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Overnight, he became a household name, celebrated as a symbol of grit and perseverance. Billions of people tuned in to watch interviews, documentaries, and replays of his matches, eager to learn more about the man who had defeated the invincible. For many, Ethan represented hope, a reminder that no matter where you came from or how difficult your circumstances, it was possible to rise above them. Despite the sudden fame, Ethan remained humble. He avoided the lavish parties and extravagant lifestyles that other champions embraced. Instead, he chose to focus on what truly mattered, using his success to make a difference. One of the first things he did after winning the championship was return to Zereth 9. The planet hadn't changed, it was still harsh and unforgiving, but Ethan had. As he stepped off the transport ship, he was greeted by cheers from the very people who had once dismissed him as just another fighter trying to survive. Ethan used his winnings to fund projects aimed at improving life on Zereth 9. He built wells to provide clean water, established schools to educate children, and created shelters to protect families during sandstorms. For the first time in years, the settlement began to thrive. People no longer lived in constant fear of starvation or dehydration. They worked together, inspired by Ethan's example, to build a better future for themselves and their children. During his time back home, Ethan reconnected with old friends and neighbors. Many apologized for doubting him, but Ethan didn't hold grudges. He understood why they had been skeptical. He had doubted himself plenty of times, too. What mattered now was moving forward, not dwelling on the past. As he walked through the streets of the settlement, he felt a sense of pride he had never experienced before. This wasn't just his home. It was proof that even the harshest environments could nurture greatness. After spending several weeks on Zereth 9, Ethan returned to Zentrix Prime. Though he cherished his time on his home planet, he knew there was still work to be done in the wider galaxy. His victory had given him a platform, and he intended to use it wisely. He began speaking out about issues that affected underprivileged communities across the galaxy: poverty, inequality, and lack of access to education. His speeches resonated with audiences, inspiring others to take action in their own worlds. Logan Drake approached Ethan shortly after his return. The two met in a quiet corner of the Galactic Arena compound, away from the prying eyes of reporters and fans. Drake extended his hand, which Ethan shook firmly. "You've earned this," Drake said, his tone sincere. "I underestimated you, and I'm glad I did," Ethan smiled. "I wouldn't have made it here without someone like you to look up to." Drake nodded, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "You're different from most fighters. You don't fight for glory or money, you fight for something bigger. Don't lose sight of that." Their conversation marked the beginning of an unexpected friendship. Though their paths diverged afterward, Ethan and Drake kept in touch, exchanging messages and occasionally meeting to discuss strategies or share stories. Ethan admired Drake's wisdom and experience, while Drake respected Ethan's humility and determination. Together, they became advocates for fairness and integrity within the Galactic Arena circuit, pushing for reforms to ensure that all fighters, regardless of background, had equal opportunities to succeed. Meanwhile, Ethan's bond with Claire deepened. Over the months, their relationship evolved from professional support to genuine companionship. Claire admired Ethan's dedication to helping others, while Ethan appreciated her kindness and unwavering belief in him. They spent countless hours talking about their dreams for the future, imagining a galaxy where everyone had the chance to thrive. One evening, as they sat together watching the stars from the roof of the compound, Claire turned to Ethan. "What's next for you?" she asked. "You've already achieved so much." Ethan thought for a moment before answering. "I want to keep fighting, not just in the arena, but for the people who need help. There's still so much work to do." Claire smiled. "I believe in you. Whatever you decide, I'll be right there with you." Her words filled Ethan with warmth. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged, not because of his victories, but because of the connections he had formed along the way. Claire wasn't just a medic or a friend anymore. She was someone he trusted completely, someone who understood him in ways no one else did. As the months passed, Ethan continued to compete in the Galactic Arena circuit, though his priorities shifted. He fought not for personal gain, but to inspire others and raise awareness about the challenges faced by marginalized communities. Each match became an opportunity to showcase resilience and determination, qualities he believed could change the world. Cale Voss, Logan Drake's former protege, also underwent a transformation. After witnessing Ethan's journey, Cale began questioning his own motivations. He realized that his arrogance and hostility stemmed from insecurity, a fear of never living up to Drake's legacy. Slowly, he started reaching out to Ethan, seeking advice and guidance. At first, Ethan was hesitant, unsure if Cale had truly changed. But over time, he saw sincerity in Cale's efforts and decided to give him a chance. Their rivalry transformed into mutual respect, and Cale eventually joined Ethan in advocating for positive change within the circuit. Years later, Ethan looked back on his journey with a mix of pride and gratitude. From the dusty deserts of Zereth 9 to the gleaming stages of the Galactic Arena circuit, he had come so far. But more importantly, he had stayed true to himself, refusing to let fame or fortune alter his values. He had proven that strength wasn't measured by power or privilege, but by the courage to face adversity head-on and the willingness to lift others up along the way. On a quiet night, Ethan stood alone on the balcony of his modest apartment, gazing at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, vast and mysterious. Somewhere out there were planets he had yet to visit, people he had yet to meet, and challenges he had yet to overcome. But he wasn't afraid. He had faced the impossible before, and he would do it again if necessary. Ethan's story was far from over. It was a story of resilience, of rising above circumstances, and of finding purpose beyond personal ambition. It was a story that reminded the galaxy and himself that greatness wasn't defined by victories or titles, but by the impact one left on the world and the lives one touched along the way. As he turned to go back inside, Ethan felt a sense of peace. No matter what lay ahead, he was ready, because he knew that the real battle, the one within himself, had already been won.